Hi.
Hi.
I know, right? It's so good to see you.
You as well.
Whew. How you
Crazy
doing?
times. I'm doing really well. I'm on my headset because my husband's working downstairs. We have a small 1,600 square foot house. So,
That's bigger than my house.
oh, there you go.
Yeah,
There you go. And 2 kids. So you might hear some banging around.
yeah. Well, actually, Sydney took the dogs out, so we have no kids and two dogs who are missing, and that's good because it's their first walk today.
Yeah, I did. I got up a bit earlier and took the dog for a walk. So yeah, we're
Excellent.
good.
So
How's my
normally when I
lighting?
start, I normally say I normally say like how I know you, where we met, blah blah blah. And what's so funny is that we met on Zoom, right? Like
That's right. We did.
we're like old Zoom buddies. We go way back.
Yeah, we know this platform
We
well.
know the
Actually, I'm
platform.
grateful for having had that experience because now a lot of my stuff that I do is through Zoom.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
good.
Like for
Yeah,
everybody, right?
yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I was just watching a Kyle thing because I got one in my uh, email, and I was
Oh, good.
watching one of his everything pass.
Mm.
So for people who don't know you and don't know me, we met through Kyle Cease and his online, what was it called? Oh my God, I can't believe
I
I'm,
believe I'm doing this thing and actually changing my life for real, something or other.
yeah, it was a thing that never ended up having a title, which is funny because I'm super struggling with a title for my thing right now. And then
Right.
someone made a comment and said, like, way to go, way to evolve out loud. And I don't know how I know this person. It was a Facebook
Okay.
comment. Uh, like I haven't reminded myself of how I know her. And I thought,
Okay.
oh, isn't that ironic? Like here I am actually finally a year after the fact, evolving out loud in some
Yeah.
shape or form.
Yeah.
Um, because if you ask me, there were parts of that experience that were brilliant. Like for me, it was just seeing how it worked. I was really interested in the mechanics of,
Mm.
50 people on a call every single day for 6 months. That was amazing. For me, it was a little frustrating that I couldn't see everybody all the time on the
Mm.
screen.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, I don't know, it was, and then the part, and I remember saying this when we finally met, because, we did that thing for 6 months and then we met in January. So it
In
was
LA. Yeah.
in LA last year. And finally, I got to feel people. And that's the part that really bugged me, that I had a really hard time connecting to anyone just through Zoom. I didn't feel like I knew anyone at all. I mean, yes, I heard the stories, but I couldn't attach the story with
That's right.
the person or whatever it was. And so the in-person meeting changed the whole experience for me.
Yeah.
Like that's where I feel like I discovered you in LA, not
Hmm.
not because of the 6 months, and Lori as well, who I'm going to talk
Oh,
to you on.
yeah.
I'm going to talk to her on Wednesday. It's her birthday on Wednesday.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's so great. I
uh,
love Lori.
so I'm looking for my.
Um, it's interesting you say that. I did feel deep connections, but there were people I wanted to know more about. And I remember the day I phoned you, I was in the parking lot of um, my workplace at the time. And I wanted a deeper connection with you.
Hmm.
And we did have a phone conversation. And that was when I first learned about, one of your mentors, whose book I have. Where is it?
That must be Sue.
Yes, it's Sue. The Energy Codes. Yeah, Dr. Sue Morter.
Yeah.
And
That's why we had to call at 2 today, because I had to do yoga with her at 11.
oh, awesome.
She's
That's so
doing
great.
free yoga online.
Yeah. So, I mean,
So you
I'm on
remember
the
that?
opposite side.
I don't remember that first call even.
Yeah, I phoned you and I wanted to kind of learn more about you and connect with you because um, there was just something about you that spoke to me. And, I've followed you online since we left our group, and I've really witnessed my want to write my story in book form. And I know you've got that on hold right now, but I've always kind of given you little nudges too, because I feel like the stories that you have and the experiences you've had as a photographer traveling around the world have been it's your perspective on them, that on those experiences and how you see the world that is beautiful.
Hmm.
And I think it shows up obviously in your photography. I was on your website again yesterday just to remind myself
Well, really,
of how good your work is, but also when you talk about the stories behind the picture, I think that is the gem, because it's revealing who you are. And I'm so glad that you were inspired by Alec Baldwin to do this, because now we get more Tanya, right? We get more of that.
yeah. Well,
And I'm on the other side of the continent. Like, I'm on the farthest west you can get in Canada on Vancouver Island right now. And as soon as I saw you do this start this project, I was like, I want in. Like, I want to make that connection.
that's awesome. Well, it's that, and that's interesting too, because I've decided not to reach out to anyone, but to let
Okay.
them reach out to me. So I'm just responding as it goes along. Um, Literally, as people come in, I just pick a slot and we just
Awesome.
schedule something. Um, and and it's funny. The first call that I did was with my ex-husband, and I did it yesterday, more because he was answering a question I had about what's the financial,
Mm,
picture going to look like as a result of this crisis. And um, but I thought, my favorite thing about my life is the people I get to meet because of what I do. So
yeah.
in the weirdest way, I don't think my photography was ever about the photography. Like, I'm an okay photographer, but not like I'm not, the greatest whatever anything photographer. But I don't think my photography is about photography, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
I think it's about connection. And I did work with a coach at one point, and she always used to say, and I can do what I do without a camera. And I always thought that was kind
Mm.
of weird, or it didn't sit right with me, or I can't describe how I felt exactly, but now I'm doing it and feeling it. And I'm like, oh, I don't actually need the camera. I mean, the photograph, the picture, for me, that's the bonus gift that I can give the
Mm.
other person. Like, I can show them some version of themselves that even they haven't seen yet or don't realize it's right there. And because I can see that future person and give it to them if they want it, or maybe they don't, or
I love that.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but the fun part for me is the time that we spend together making the magic.
Yeah.
So it's like, sorry, nobody's getting the photo now.
Yeah.
But I think the magic part is the moment. And you're not going to believe this, but the first time, the reason I was in that Kyle group is because I met Kyle. I was working on a book. I wanted to do a book about, it was called Prophets Among Us, and it was about
That's
ordinary
right.
people delivering extraordinary messages. And I was so gung ho about that about 2 years ago. And I remember driving down the street with a friend saying, I'm going to LA, and I either want to talk to Louise Hay or Kyle Cease. And I was driving with a friend who said, oh, our friend Tracy knows Kyle. And so, boom, 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 connections, phone calls, whatever. I go to an event of his. He hugs every last person in the theater, on, like, literally, we were on the street in Times Square, and he's
Mm.
hugging every last person who came to his show. And I said, I would really love to photograph you for this project. I went to LA, met him there. We had lunch. And over that lunch conversation, he said something to me about, like, going on stage or something. And I was like, oh, hell no. That is the last place you will ever see me. I'm like, it's not just stage fright. It's also, it's stage fright. It's like a little bit of stage fright and a little
Yeah.
bit, I just don't want to be in the spotlight. And he said, well, what if you set up an imaginary table on the stage? And because I said I can do one-on-one really well. Like
Mm.
I just prefer one-on-one conversations. And he said, what if you set up a stage with an empty chair and a table, and that's your shtick, right? Like, so you get on the stage as if
Okay.
you're having a conversation with the person. Boom, 2 years later, look where we are.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, here we are. This is as close to a stage as I need to be. And here's my chair. You're in
I
my,
love that
you're
chair.
in that chair.
I love that chair.
Isn't that crazy how that stuff works out?
Yeah. And
So you're
something
very
about
good
what you
at
said about the connection piece is, so around that time we met, I was, about 8 months, 9 months into my own huge project, um, ironically called the Connection Project. I've just released a podcast a few weeks ago,
that's right.
of the same name.
That's right. I forgot that.
And it was essentially I put myself on a stage. This was before I met Kyle. Um, Putting myself on a stage to share my story. My dream was to do a one-woman show and talk about my journey through depression and anxiety and all the iterations of what that looked like in my young life, my adult life. And it ended up changing because it couldn't just be me, because it was called the Connection Project. And I needed to bring in more people. I needed support. I needed help. I wanted inspiration. And I ended up doing that in 2018 in October. And it was like a mental health storytelling event. It was very artsy. And I did it again this past October, and it was more TED Talky. But everything I do is based around that concept of connection, right? So the podcast now, and I host a small weekly circle at a yoga studio called Awaken Wellbeing to explore how to achieve it or how to better our own well-being. And that's been going on since November. And now, boom, we can't meet. And so last Wednesday night, I held my first Zoom circle. And honestly, it was still as intimate because those relationships had been established, but new people are joining in because I wanted to expand it to the greater public. But there's an intimacy that we can have through the screen or through a lens or a camera. It's the same as being in a movie and having it zoomed right in on an actor's eyes. We have that capacity to forget how it's happening and step into that it is happening, right? And so I think your project is fantastic in the way that you're creating a space for those connections to take place, and whatever needs to come through will, right? Like, I imagine your conversation with Lori on Wednesday is going to be amazing,
Yeah.
because
It, I,
she channels everything.
it plays to all of my favorite things and
Yeah,
strengths, which is awesome friends who do a million different things, who span the globe and the range of, you know, everything from, I don't know, Lori and astrology and um, energy and those conversations to, practical and maybe, I don't know about political. I don't usually go there, but, practical and banking and business. And so I love that range of conversations plus the randomness of conversations,
yeah,
because I believe in random is a thing, and
yeah,
random is universally orchestrated, and whoever's meant to show up is going to show up, um, and you just keep doing you.
yeah,
So how crazy, and how crazy that I always, in my mind, I always thought I had to build a physical thing, whether it was write a book or create a physical, I had such a strong pull to do sort of retreat center. And I think a lot of us were feeling that. Um, Not so much retreat center, but like healing center, alternative healing connection network. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm quite grateful I'm not, down the road doing something that's physical, in nature when this is more important. You know, the right now we can't have the physical
Mm,
contact, so we're having these energetic connections um, that are as important, if not more so. Or you know what? They're making us appreciate
yeah,
how much the physical ones are important.
huge.
Yeah,
And
because
it sounds like you're blessed too to have your, your partner Sydney and two animals. Gosh, like the circumstances just aligned that I'm able to be at home with my husband and kids and that we can work from home. I'm also doubly blessed. And I did want to share this with you. I live on a property where my husband's sister lives at the front in a different house.
mhm.
She just happened to marry my brother, who is also a sound. Yeah. So brother, sister, and we all get along. And in the center, and then my brother-in-law is in a small cabin, another brother. And so we have been isolated, but with a group of people. Like, we're so lucky.
Right.
And the outdoor space we have in between the houses, my brother built and sister-in-law built a outdoor cob oven, so we could make food outside, those really great pizzas. And we have a garden space, so we've been expanding the garden. And we're beyond blessed, but that still is external. Yes, those relationships are there. We can have this physical touch. We can hug one another.
Mm.
I can cuddle my kids. We stayed up till midnight last night and just enjoyed each other's company and cuddled with the dogs. So we still have that. But without those foundations, I feel that I've been blessed with over the last 5 or 6 years of getting comfortable with my own inner self, my own inner being. I don't know that I would be even in a state to appreciate how lucky I am. So, and it's getting familiar with, what does grief look like to me? Um, what does sadness, fear, anxiety, depression, what do the perceived negative emotions or conditions internally, what do those look like to me? And because I'm a little more familiar with them, because I've been exploring them for um, a while through relationships and meditation and my own writing and things like that, I would be in deep trouble right now. And I think there might be a lot of people that are. So I feel called to be in the doing mode and offering things to people if I can,
Mm.
because, and it's not to say that I don't have hard days, but it's not new to me to be faced with that. There's a show on TV called Alone. I don't know if you've seen it. And people get placed on a remote island. I think it's 6 seasons in or something, with no food, no shelter. They have 10 things that they get to choose, like an axe or a flint or whatever.
Yeah.
And then whoever lasts the longest wins 500 grand. And we
Oh,
were
it's a
watching,
cake, man.
yeah, we were watching this
Oh my gosh.
prior to the physical distancing and everybody staying at home, and this virus really getting hold in Canada. And it was really interesting how many similarities are there, even though not everybody's living out in the bush and dealing with bears and stuff. They're dealing with their own inner demons and things that they've not explored yet because of the distraction of day-to-day life. And that's not true for everyone. Some people are facing it day to day with housing, homeless people in poverty. And um, so it's calling into question the layers at which we as a society are not caring for our most vulnerable. So now that everybody's vulnerable, it calls in those basic human needs, those basic human rights. Like, where do they play a role here? And how have we failed one another, you know? And so everybody's doing the micro of the macro within themselves, I think. And it can be pretty nasty some days, you know.
Mhm.
Like, I'm lucky that I can go walk my dog, and you know, I've encountered people when I do that, and we're lovingly crossing the street and then going back over, right? I'm in a rural community, sort of farmland sort of type coastal town, and so the ocean is right there, so I can walk to the ocean. um,
Have a lot of people left cities to come be where you are? Have you had a big
um,
influx of city people?
no,
Not
because
houses
we're close to downtown Victoria, which is the capital of British Columbia, but
built.
we're on Vancouver Island, which is separate from the mainland. So Vancouver would be, if we cross the water, Vancouver would be the closest big city.
Mhm.
But there aren't people like rushing to get here. And there are smaller islands around the southern tip of Vancouver Island where I think there might get more and more difficult for them to get access to food, and trucks coming over on the ferries to bring supplies to their, you know, grocery stores and things like that. So it's really calling into question food security as well, you know?
Are you separated by a ferry, an island with a ferry, or a bridge?
Yeah,
A
ferry. Yeah, it's an hour and a half. And there's also a ferry that goes down
the
to Seattle.
ferry is an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they run on the odd hour. Yeah. Or every hour in the tourist season, right?
Wow.
But I mean, everything's here. You know, we have a downtown area. We have um, everything that you could get in any major city. You know,
Right.
I've never been a Costco person myself, so I don't have to worry about all that. But
Trust me, don't start now.
yeah, no, it just is too overwhelming for me. You want to talk about anxiety? Go to Costco.
I found that place overwhelming before all this started.
That's right.
But I
Yeah.
actually couldn't be in that space very long because of the weird energy of it.
Mm,
Very sad, especially to someone who's vulnerable to depression and things like that, which I was for pretty much most of my life. Uh, that's a hard place for me to go.
mm,
And my son is even more sensitive to energy than I am. Yeah, and it's funny. I talking to you reminds me that he doesn't have anyone hugging him up in
yeah.
Boston, and of course I miss it. But you know, I have someone who's hugging me, but he doesn't. So I'm gonna tell him to have like hugging fests with his roommates.
Uh, yeah.
Mm,
And that too, like, so at some point each day, I think, okay, who do I need to call that's in my smaller circle that is literally alone right now, you know, and just being aware of that and trying to remember that they don't have anybody.
yeah.
And like, my mom's self-isolating, she's in the healthcare system. My mother-in-law and her partner have COVID-19.
Hmm.
So um, we've been meeting on Zoom when they're up for it. I think they're slowly on the mend, but it was pretty awful and a vulnerable, sinking feeling when you actually have that connection of someone you really deeply love being diagnosed and being sick, right? So, oh, your puppies are back.
Bye.
Yay.
Hold on, Spencer wants to come up here. Spencer,
Uh,
come here. Come up. No? All right. Well, sorry. Oh, wait, here. Here, down. Say hi,
oh,
guys.
wow. Oh, cute. Oh, gorgeous. I'm a big dog person, but we currently have a little mini dog. She turns 1 on April 2nd.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And
mine are like 10 and 11 or something.
aw, that's awesome.
They're old, but they have a fitness trainer taking care of them.
Oh, nice. And I wanted to mention quickly, I know we're almost at the half hour.
Oh, that's
Um,
all these calls are going like an hour, and
oh, are they? Oh,
I
awesome.
don't care. However it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'll pull a card for you then.
Oh, yay.
The
Now we're getting
the
into my favorite kind of call.
Yes. My good friend Joanne,
Mhm.
her and 2 other local photographers have piggybacked on a project, and it's called the Front Steps Project.
I've seen it.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and so they came by our house yesterday, and we all had to scramble to make ourselves not look disheveled and throw some decent clothes on. But we decided to go barefoot. Um, and she came by with a ladder and stayed way back from our, front porch, and we got some photos taken, and we made a donation to the food bank. And it's stuff like that is so awesome to see. And I've not passed a person driving by me in a car nor walking across the street that haven't had the hugest smile on their face. Like, people are appreciating one another. The grocery store can be stressful. You definitely come across people that are having challenges there.
Yeah.
um, for whatever reason, and it's tricky. I mean, the governments are definitely challenged because they're saying stay home, and that means major financial crisis for a lot of people. Most people are a week or two away from um, whatever bankruptcy, or not being able to pay their rent, or whatever. So it's stressful times, and just remembering that, when you encounter maybe somebody being rude or whatever. um, I've been the grocery shopper in the family, so in our small family, so I'll go out and get stuff for other people as well. And but it's like, yeah, how do you know if you're doing enough to keep yourself safe, even in that one interaction a week, right?
Yeah. Well,
That's challenging.
for me, a big aspect of it is the belief system that you walk in with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't even know. Part of me doesn't even want to say this publicly because I understand everyone has different frames of reference and believes different things. But first of all, I'm okay with getting sick. Like, if that's gonna happen, then I will accept that happening. If I am supposed to die because of this, then I'm okay with that happening. And I realize that's not like a popular opinion in the world, but I think that I've had so much exposure to people who have survived near-death experiences, and I actually already survived my own version. It was with Lyme disease, but it felt like death. And the Lyme disease was, I believe, triggered by the stress that was happening in my life at the time as well. And I came out of that feeling like, okay, bring it. Like, I I can handle whatever comes and live in the moment and now. And believe me, I fall out of that all the time, and I'm constant, like, I'm not afraid of losing my house, although I'm one illness away from losing my house.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
anytime. I have no health
yeah.
insurance.
We're vulnerable too, big
Yeah,
time.
I have no health insurance. Um, and all kinds of, credit card debt, and I have no idea how I'll pay bills going forward. But today I'm okay. And
Mm.
today I'm like, okay, we're good. It's all good. And like, whatever comes, I can handle. But I know that that's me putting on my oxygen first, because I can't help anybody if I can't do that first. I can't give anything. And it's funny, my first reaction to all of this was I wanted to be in a better position to help more people,
Mm.
but I just wasn't. I actually, I, I don't know if I heard you say kind of the same, or actually it didn't sound like you had any kind of a breakdown. I had more of a breakdown at the beginning where I was super scattered, super unable to focus on anything. Uh, I, I couldn't get the smallest little job done. I couldn't pay attention to the classes I was taking online. Um, I had a million projects I wanted to do, but they all seemed quite stupid and frivolous. Um, like, is now the time to be thinking about art? Which is funny because the answer is yes, actually. Maybe not, on day one, but art sustains me in all of my life. I'm surrounded by, I could sit here and I could do book reports for the next 3 years, just talking about all the books that I have here that I love so much. And, they inspire the heck out of me. And yeah, I so agree with you that we're all facing this in different ways and meeting this in different ways. And, you know, people who are alone have to face the alone. People who have families, like, I know people with 6, 8, 10 people living in a house,
Mhm.
and that requires a completely different response, and a level of organization I couldn't pull off. I'm like, like I couldn't even do the cooking for that, and um, and I'm amazed. I'm amazed at all of the amazing, beautiful range of things that are coming out of this. I have a friend who's a photographer who's out on the street photographing people on the street, people on the front lines, homeless people. I think you probably
Mm.
saw it on my Facebook page.
No, but I'll check it out.
Peter Turnley photos, so
Okay.
beautiful. And he's a brilliant photographer who goes into war zone and crisis and whatever. Like, he was made for this. And actually, that's something that Sue Morter says all the time. She says, you were made for this. You were made for this right now. And so this is asking everyone to be their best self
Mm.
and to put into action this lifetime of whatever. And for some people, that's the falling away, that it's the letting go, and you've got to let it break down. Kyle talks about this all the time. Like, you have to let it go and burn it down. And you don't get a phoenix rising out of the ashes until you have the ashes, um, which is so crazy one of the last pictures I did of Lee Harris, um, we actually wasn't, yeah, it was a year ago. It was about a year ago. It was after the fires in Los Angeles. And I was driving up to his house in Malibu, and I was sort of uh, shocked by the on the ground look of all this burned landscape and the trees. And, you see it on the news or whatever, and it feels sort of distant. And then you drive through it, and it's a black moonscape of some kind.
Mm.
And in that moment I drove through, I felt, oh, hold on, I have to close the door here.
No worries. I thought that was on my end, so that's nice.
Um, so, so in the moment I was driving through, I thought, but it's going to come back. It's going to rise again. I was even aware as I was driving through, the burned everything, that there was going to be green poking through really soon, like right after. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this moment with Lee. And I get to his house and I said, Lee, I have this vision, and you're like the phoenix rising out of the ashes. And, he's bald and everything. And I thought, this will be such a great image. Like, he's made for it. I said, do you have like a black leather jacket? Da, da, da. And we're looking at his bed where he's laid out the clothes that we're going to shoot that day. He has a t-shirt that he was just about to throw away. Black t-shirt with a gold phoenix on it.
Of course.
And he said, I was about to get rid of this. And then I just had a feeling like, no, I don't know why. And that's why I love working with him so much, because the intuition just goes off the charts. Like, I don't know why
Mm.
I'm keeping this t-shirt, but I'm keeping it. And I'm looking at the black going, I don't know why I'm shooting this, but I'm shooting this. And he's just about to release another album, and he's using that image as the cover of his or of another song or something.
Aw.
But even in the moment, it felt like an important photo. We didn't know why we were doing it. We didn't have a
Mm.
purpose for it. It was just a sense that this is all going to be okay. I mean, he lived in that part of Malibu where one house burned to the ground and the
Yeah.
next house wasn't touched. He was one of the ones that wasn't touched, and all around him are houses that are burnt to the ground. And so it doesn't make any sense, but if you think of that analogy of what we're doing now, you know, we're all burning to the ground in different ways. Some people aren't burning to the ground.
Hmm.
Some people can help other people because their houses burned to the ground and they're still standing and they're still solid and they're really in great shape to help. And then sometimes all you can do is like sit there and like throw water on your own house and keep it keep it afloat.
It's so funny. Well, you know what's ironic is when you brought up the thing about the Lyme's disease, um, you know, when I was blow drying my hair or whatever, getting ready to make myself look
Right,
presentable for this,
right.
I had remembered just before everybody got into this situation with having to stay home. I've been dealing with some health issues, some chronic pain, and you know, the last conversation I had with my doctor, he said, he called me after I got another scan, and he basically said, look, let's just be honest, we need to rule out cancer. And it just, I don't know, like it just didn't matter. Like I went downstairs and I told my husband, and he gave me a hug. And then that was kind of it. Like, yeah, we'll get to it. We'll do the biopsy. I may or may not. But the letting go of that sort of turmoil we can put ourselves into about it is the gift for me. And I remember thinking that day, well, you know, I'm just so grateful I don't have the virus. Cancer I can deal with, right? Like, but I've done the same thing, and I really appreciate that you said if you get sick, you get sick, and if you die from it, you die from it. And people don't say it, but I imagine that a large population of the world right now is, if they aren't faced with it immediately in the moment, or if they don't actually know somebody that has it or has passed from it, because I think it's something like 34,000 people have died now worldwide,
Mhm.
they've at least late at night thought, what if, right? And I'm not inviting it, but I'm in the same place as you, like, uh, you know,
What if this, what if that?
to
I mean,
be will
really,
be.
what's the
Yeah.
difference between the virus and the day you die? Really, what's the difference? I
Yeah.
mean, we're all we're all going to the same place,
Yeah.
right? So I
And yeah, like having been doing work and exploring, you know, our connection to our ancestry, and also, you know, those that have gone before us, and considering that the veil's thinner than we think or have thought previously, and how much that actually plays a role in our day-to-day life, and being able to call on our loved ones that are on the other side, or whatever label you want to give it, who have passed on to the next world. You know, when I was walking my dog today, a rainbow, and of course, yeah, it had rained and the sun was coming out, so there was a rainbow, and whatever the scientific stuff behind rainbows is. But it was also like, oh yeah, that's my adopted brother JR again, just letting me know he's there. And a raven flies by at the moment that it perfectly aligns with what I'm thinking about, or what have you. And it's that connection to all the worlds that are actually present that gives me a sense of hope and aliveness, regardless of what's happening, whether I have a cancerous tumor or not, or whether, you know what I mean? Like, it's, I understand that. And so in the meantime, it's an explosion of creativity is what's been true for me,
mm,
not just right now, but in the last few years. Like the explosion of creativity and the willingness to just jump in and try it. Just try it. Like I write random poetry and just put it out there immediately, unedited, because it's just the joy of creating it, right? And I have behind me, you know, I have these medicine bundles. I burn sage every night and just smudge myself and bring that medicine close to my heart. And you know, I pray and I meditate, and connect with friends. And, you know, I have all these practices that on a day when I don't do them, I know I have them the next day. Or on a day when it's interrupted or I don't make time for it, just let it go, you know, just
Right.
letting that go.
So you don't even beat yourself up for your
Yeah, not anymore.
lack of spiritual practice or whatever.
Yeah, if I falter, then some part of that break just needed to remind me how much I wanted it, right?
Right.
Um, so, and it's interesting how much less pain I've been experiencing since this has all been going on, because
Physical pain
it's,
or emotional?
yeah, I'm being called to be more present,
Hmm.
and it's the drifting into the other parts of the struggle that have just sort of been put on hold, right? I just realized I got this book here. Our mutual friend, Jeremy
Oh,
Goldberg.
it sits behind me in my office upstairs.
It'll be okay, and you will be too. He
Yeah,
said, oh, I want to write another one that says, it's okay, and so are you, right? Instead of it being in the future, like it's already here. Um, and, you know, stepping out of the, oh, I'll be happy when, or I'll be, you know, I'll be good enough when. No, you're good enough now.
right. It took
Happiness
me
is a choice.
it took me something like 53 years to get
Yeah,
there.
yeah, 41.
Yeah.
Right. And but I think the part where this thing is really magical right now is anyone that's stepping into something new that they're creating, I think is just feeling called to obviously be their best self, but if they're in a position to help others,
Mm,
they're doing that now as opposed to waiting,
right.
you know, like,
Thinking about it, or I will when,
yeah,
which,
waiting for it to be
yes,
perfect.
yes.
I was,
Yes.
go ahead, sorry.
Well, that I think that's exactly where I am right now.
Yeah.
Like, if not now, when? I mean, come on. It doesn't get any bigger than this.
That's a really good Tracy Chapman song, by the way, one of my favorites.
Which, oh, if not now, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yes.
I love that
Right,
album.
Tracy,
And
let's not listen
music.
to Tracy.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful for you for doing this, because just some of the things that are processing right now in my head and my heart will assist those that come to my online circle on Wednesday. That's the thing, is I'm constantly gathering, my friends tease me that I'm an Akashic record keeper, but I'm constantly gathering wisdom, I guess you could call it, or knowledge to like then reshare.
Yeah,
If I can ever remember the sources, I always share the sources if I can. But
yeah.
there's so much good stuff out there, and I just feel lucky to be exposed to so many people in my life. Um, you know, and I'm going to share some of the things that you've taught me this week. It'll be my Tanya sharing week, you know.
Did I taught you?
Yeah, yeah, about connection, because you watching you and witnessing you and learning from you in that time was really important, and how you held on to the things you loved, and that you didn't let go of the trust you had in who you were. In that 6 months, you held on to what was true for you, regardless of what it appeared like you should have done, um, in regards to your home and your
Mm,
possessions and your beliefs.
right. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I remember doing that whole letting go thing with Kyle. And on the one hand, it worked, and on the other, I was like, no, but I love my things. But I really love them.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I struggle with stuff. Stuff is but it's funny when people ask you, like, what would you take to a desert island? My answer always includes some piece of art. It's usually a book, because you can get more art in one book, you know. I'm always
Nice.
cheating the system, but um, yeah, it always includes something that inspires me.
Hmm.
So it's never I can't just do practical. It's not fun for me.
Nice.
So there has to be like an element of beauty in everything, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but it's funny. So before I started doing these little videos,
Yeah.
wait, I'll show you. I'll show you my thing, and then you can pull a card.
Oh, awesome.
Um, so I had this. It's funny. I wasn't sure if I would mention it, but I I had this little product I was going to push, which I was. I've been going back and forth on like which thing is my thing. What thing do I want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do? You know, for 10 years I've been trying to figure out if I'm still a photographer, which is pretty weird, right? That's why my website is so crappy and everything. So I made this, uh, which is a box.
Those are your hands.
No, these are my friend Maggie's hands.
Okay.
She's a yoga teacher. So one of the
Oh,
things I
wow.
love about her hands is, so she's a yoga teacher. We did this for her. She's
Okay.
wearing her bracelets from India, and she's wearing her Cartier bracelet.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I
That's
called it,
stunning.
so I made it as a piece of art. It was on my wall. It's up in my office. And I call it Namaste, which makes a lot of sense. I'm a photographer. The light
Mhm.
in me sees the light in you. Like, I was so down with that. And then my friend Annette said, well, could you make it smaller so that it could fit on my altar? And I thought,
Ooh.
ooh, yes, I could. And it could be a box so it could hold stuff. Oops. um, so I have, the thing about me with my cards is I have at least 10 decks of cards, and I love to mix them and play with them and whatever. So, you know, these are Colette Baron Reed's Oracle cards. Then my friend Amy, so I'm talking to Amy later this week. She has these amazing cards that all have words on them. So,
Mhm.
like heart,
Uh,
uh, gather.
yeah, that's what we're doing.
So she has, you know, and she lays them out in different ways, and the way she reads them is so beautiful, and she's such a storyteller. And of course, you know, mine now has like I was looking for this a little while ago.
You're like, there it is.
I mean, normally I'm wearing like, you know, Tanya's, oh yeah,
You know
exactly.
angel cards?
No,
Oh, they're the best.
beautiful. Well, these
Yeah.
are like Amy's angel cards because she's a channel and she channeled her cards. And
Uh,
anyway, I thought I love to, and I've done this with Amy where I release, where
yeah, release.
I layer the cards on top of each other. So, you know, I'll do a reading with one, and then I'll throw down some others and some others. And I thought, oh, perfect. Now I have the box to put them on. And I thought,
Oh,
but really, is that what you're going to do at this time, Tanya? You're going to like sell a box? And then I called the lab to see if they could even produce them. And they said, yeah, we don't know how long we'll be open. And the next morning, I get the email that they are shut down for 30 days.
right.
So I'm like, okay, next. um,
I would buy one. Just saying. I
okay.
would
Well,
love that.
my intention is not only to produce them because I still think it's beautiful. I mean, they're handmade. They're
Mm,
walnut. I have another one
absolutely
upstairs that is
gorgeous.
this beautiful rose on maple. Very
Yeah.
beautiful. I have a picture of feathers that I'll probably do as well. And I thought, yeah, okay, so I have some time to get that website like up and going and ready so you can just place an order and it gets sent to you.
Mm,
Um, but the other thing that inspired me was all of my friends who make art. I mean, there's so many of them that do different kinds of art and different things. And I always wanted to have a gallery. That used to be my retirement plan for Sag Harbor, was to have, I don't know, photo gallery, art gallery, something like that. And just sit there and watch the world like go by or come by, mostly in the summer. And yeah, so I thought maybe this is the beginning of the gallery. It starts with gratitude. It starts with the light in me sees the light in you. And then I
mm.
start to collect the art of my friends and also sell it for them. It would be like a portal for them.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, none of my things that I thought were physical are physical. Uh, they're turning into these virtual portals and ways of connecting. And I don't know. It's just fun. That's what I goof around with. Okay, so let's talk about the cards.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I was just about to do a um, project. It was supposed to happen April 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So um, it was called Ekphrasis at Archive. So Archive is the gallery, and ekphrastic poetry is poetry written about art, right?
What?
So I was paired up with this piece of artwork, and I had to write about it. And it's supposed to be next weekend, but it's going to have to be postponed indefinitely right now. But
Can't you,
it will happen.
can't you do it virtually?
So there's that aspect. They might do that. So I have to send in my voice recording of reading the poem. But it was a really incredible experience to do that. And the art piece ended up being an actual sculpture, but fiber art sculpture. And I was imagining a painting. So it really called me to challenge myself. And it was such a beautiful experience. And I'm really looking forward to when we actually get to go to the art gallery and experience it. But yeah, it's like the letting go of all those things, right? Letting go of, the boxes you wanted to make for now, or physically going out and photographing people. It's crazy. And I was about to launch my coaching business, and I've launched my website, but I haven't said anything about the coaching part. I've been doing it indirectly for years, but it was like, oh, isn't it interesting at this time that won't be happening right now? I mean, I could do it virtually, but it's just not the time, it's not the time to be doing that work just yet. But it might be, when people come out of this and want to move forward in their lives with these passions that have been subdued, perhaps, that there's some guidance there. So whatever anybody is doing artistically, I think, is going to really support one another in those endeavors. So these cards, they are medicine cards.
Oh, so you have multiple cards too.
Yeah, well, just the angel cards in this one.
Okay.
This is Jamie Sams and David Carson. And I was introduced to these when I was 15. And so they're all animals, and there's lots of different spreads you can do. But I have been pulling cards for people. So I will just wait. You can send whatever energy my way, and I will receive it. Okay, so it's a lizard.
Interesting.
Okay, so I'll read from
Looks like the lizard is in a dream catcher. Can I see it again?
Yeah, so all the animals are within that.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And these cards are inspired by many indigenous cultures throughout the world and draw upon so much of that, right? David Carson, he grew up in Oklahoma, and I think he's in New Mexico now. And Jamie Sams is a writer of Cherokee, Seneca, and French descent. I was just reading a little bit about their blurbs in the back, but yeah, definitely influenced by that.
Part Indian, Native American.
No, my husband is First Nations, which is,
that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so married too. I grew up in New Zealand, so really connected with the Maori culture, and then lived very close to a lot of different communities, and one specifically, Bella Bella, the Healtsuk people. And my sister married a man from there, and they have a son who's now 23. And yeah, I live on a First Nations reserve here in Canada. So really lucky to be part of that and starting to learn a tiny, tiny little bit of the language. My daughter's in the immersion program, and the language here is Sinchothan, and it's a very beautiful language. And the people are Coast Salish would be the group.
Wow.
So Lizard is all about dreaming. And I'll just read it verbatim. It's just so good. Lizard sat lolling in the sun of a big rock, shading himself from the desert sun. Snake crawled by looking for some shadow to coil up in and nest. Snake watched Lizard for a while as Lizard's eyeballs went side to side behind his enormous closed lids. Snake hissed to get Lizard's attention. Slowly, Lizard's dreaming eyes opened and he saw Snake. Snake, you scare me. What do you want? Lizard cried. Snake spit his answer from his forked tongue. Lizard, you are always getting the best shadow spots in the heat of the day. This is the only rock, big rock for miles. Why don't you share your shade with me? Lizard thought for a moment, then agreed. Snake, you can share my shade spot, but you have to go to the other side of the rock, and you must promise not to interrupt me. Snake was getting annoyed. He hissed, How could I bother you, Lizard? All you are doing is sleeping. Lizard was getting annoyed. Oh, Snake, you're such a silly serpent. I'm not sleeping. I'm dreaming. Snake wanted to know what the difference was, so Lizard explained. Dreaming is going into the future, Snake. I go to where future lives. You see, that is why I know you won't eat me today. I dreamed you, and I know you're full of mouse. Snake was taken aback. Why, Lizard, you're exactly right. I wondered why you said you would share your rock. Lizard laughed to himself. Snake, he said, you are looking for shade, and I am looking for shadow. Shadow is where the dreams live. Lizard medicine is the shadow side of reality where your dreams are reviewed before you decide to manifest them physically. Lizard could have created getting eaten by Snake if he had so desired. Lizard is the medicine of dreamers. Whether dreamers smoke you or dream you, dreamers can always help you see the shadow. This shadow can be your fears, your hopes, or the very thing you are resisting, but it is always following you around like an obedient dog. If Lizard dreamed a space in your cards today, it may be time to look and see what is following along behind you. Is it your fears, your future trying to catch up with you, or is it the part of you that wants to ignore your weaknesses and humanness? Lizard may be telling you to pay attention to your dreams and their symbols. Make a dream log and recall all that you remember. Be sure to pay attention to each individual symbol or recurring pattern. If you do not remember your dreams, you could try set a music alarm for 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Or you could try drinking a lot of water before bedtime and allow your bladder to wake you up. Dreams are very important. Pay attention to them.
Interesting.
I want to tell you one quick story before we go.
Okay.
I'm going to grab this little buffalo I have. 1 second.
We all have such great collections of things.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, maybe 5, maybe 4, I went to Sedona in Arizona, and I bought this buffalo, and it's really beautiful, right? And you can see this is a little bit raised. This piece of the sculpture had fallen off. And I had been having dreams about buffalo. I'd been writing poetry about buffaloes. Everything was buffalo.
Right.
and it's one of my medicine cards in my like spread that you do for yourself.
Mhm.
And it had come off, and I hot glue gunned it back on, which is why it's raised a little bit. It looks a bit weird, but I wanted to fix it because Buffalo is about prayer and abundance. And I had been kind of challenged in those areas and was working through some stuff with financial abundance as well as other things. And I was just allowing it to free itself up a bit more. And as soon as I glued this, the buffalo thing kept blowing up more and more and getting bigger and bigger. And then all these coincidences started happening with buffalo. I would draw a card, buffalo, 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 day after day. And my husband had been bugging me. He said, "Can you remind me what my center animal is in my medicine card spread?" I said, "Oh, yeah. When we first met, I had done his medicine cards, and the center animal is like who you are, right?"
Mhm.
And I kept saying, "I know your center animal's otter, but I will look for it." And I was telling someone about how buffalo was coming up a lot in my life. And I said, "Hold on a sec." They were visiting me at my house. I said, "I need to go and open this container and get the scrapbook out and quickly send a picture to my husband. He's been bugging me about what his animal cards are." So I opened this scrapbook that I haven't seen for years. And lo and behold, his center animal was buffalo. I had it totally wrong. And then a day or two later, another friend of mine said, I was going through some old stuff and I found this old coin and I wanted to give it to you." And it was the buffalo
Nickel.
coin with the um, American Indian head on the other side.
Mhm.
And then I just was like, the coincidences were getting crazy with this, right? It was so funny. Anyway, um, my husband's a politician and he had gone to an event on an island nearby, and he phones me up on his way home. He goes, "You're never going to guess." He's freaking out. And he said, um, "I was brought up by a community member, and the community member read this whole thing about being so grateful and his parents and his grandparents um, lineage, and talking about all this stuff and saying, and I wanted to thank you personally. And my late wife had kept this thing for a lot of years, and I've decided I want to give it to you in appreciation for the work you do for our community." And hands him another buffalo coin. This was in 24 hours of me getting my coin from another friend. And we're in the living room just like laughing, like, what does this mean? And there's so many ways to look at synchronicity and coincidence, but um, I think more it's just a calling to help us become more aware that there's more at play than what is apparent and in front of us, and that, you know, the universe and God, source, creator, um, like, we are so loved and we're so divinely protected. And what we don't see here in this physical form in this life, I believe, will be revealed to us at some point in our consciousness. And it's just getting aligned with being conscious of our awareness. Like, conscious awareness is such a big thing. And I think we're growing up, we're growing ourselves up, we're getting to that place of understanding who we are and how we can better love one another because we are truly connected. And um, you know, I feel so good in my heart right now being here with you, Tanya, and just thank you so much for saying yes to me saying yes
I'm
to connecting.
so, yeah, I'm amazed that you did, and I'm glad that you did. Uh,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to say this because you made me think of it. Did did we ever talk about Anita Morjani, her book?
um
Do you know
I
who?
haven't read it. I know who she is.
Okay. Because what
I've
she
seen some
said
of her
about,
stuff.
the like the aware what we're aware of, and there's so much that we don't know. She used a metaphor in her book, the first one, "Dying to Be Me," that
Mm,
it it clarified so much for me when I read that book because it simplified everything. First of all, it's only her story of her experience,
Right, right.
but her experience is of dying, almost dying of cancer. So, the thing that everyone's so afraid of, cancer and dying, and so just substitute virus and dying, um, brought her to the brink of crossing over, to the point where she did cross over
Mm,
enough to have an experience or an awareness of this other side. And she describes it with this great metaphor, like, imagine you're in a warehouse, and your whole everything that is everything that exists under the sun, no, and beyond the sun, including the universe, including the entire solar system and everything, is in this warehouse. And you're in it, and all of a sudden someone flicks on the light switch and you see everything.
mm,
And then they turn it off again, and you go back to your life, which was your life with like, we're all with little flashlights going around this warehouse, and we're like, oh, look at that pretty thing, and oh, look at that pretty thing.
mm.
But once the lights have been switched on, you never forget, right? You can't forget what you have seen and what you know. And that's the thing that I love so much about almost everyone I've ever spoken to that's had a near-death experience, is there's the knowing takes a different place inside of them. um, for me, it's a knowing that's more in a belief kind of way. um, but yeah, I love connecting with people who have that same sense that, yeah, this is not all of it. Because I spent years of my life in a relationship with someone who said, if I can see it, touch it, feel it, I believe it, and if I can't, it's not. He is an atheist completely, so it's not even a question of which God. There's just none. And
Mm.
that was like me suppressing something I knew to be true for a decade. um, and that's like me. That would be like me saying that connection isn't a real energy.
Yeah.
That's you can't get me to say that. um, because it is very real. We do feel the energy of other people, um, and it makes us feel better when we're talking to the right people.
Yeah.
um, which ideally is everyone. And
That's right.
a lot
That's
of
right.
people say, like, they say about me that I can talk to anyone, and it's possibly true, although I'm a Scorpio, so there are those people that I would just eat for dinner. um,
That's awesome.
I'm not as nice as everyone thinks, um, but it's true. I love talking to everyone, and I love, God, we have just like millions of different ways of expressing being human. Such a amazing, beautiful thing.
I feel like there's this layer of me that gets to do the work that I wanted someone to do for me when I was younger. Like,
Mm.
I remember the first night when I spent in a psych ward, and it was the deepest pit of a rock bottom you can imagine. And I felt like I had nothing. And yet something inside me said, it's still okay. And there was such a release of being at that place and surrendering as well as accepting, that gave me some kind of weird hope. And now I get to share with others that that's not a life sentence,
Yeah.
that
There's a
there
strength.
is a way and we can love one another.
There's a strength that you have because you went to that place
Yeah.
and survived that place and came back from that place. And yeah, I really understand. And that's another common thread among people
Mm.
that I know, people that I love. have been to the deepest, darkest places.
Yeah. And there's people that are there right now, and it's up to us to be there for those people, right? If
Well,
we can.
yes, yes, and because
And
really,
yes, and yeah,
because what brought you back from there wasn't anyone else.
yeah,
I mean, yes, I had people that were holding me as I was fragile and coming back, but no one can do it for you. And that's a really big part, I think, of this breakdown is it's all the individual ways that the breakdown is
yeah,
happening are really important and individual. And, for someone, it might just be the fear of this virus. For someone else, it's a divorce. For someone else, it's a near-death
that's right.
experience.
Yeah,
For someone else, it's a betrayal. For someone else, it's a pet. You don't have to qualify the pain that a person goes through. Um,
I totally wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah.
yeah.
And us staying in our awareness and being true to where we are and holding fast in that serves the people that are in their perceived struggle.
Hmm.
Like not saying, not changing who we are to meet them,
Right.
staying who we are, that might propel that,
Right.
or that trusting in them being in their dark places.
Right. Well, be the lighthouse. Be the lighthouse
Yeah,
and remind people that there is land and there is light. And um, yeah,
yeah,
there were just a couple people. Um, yeah, that I was able to reach out to at the hardest, lowest. Like, I can't live anymore. I can't do this anymore. Um, and those people, it wasn't really that they saved me or did anything for me. It's that I was ready to ask for help.
mm-hmm.
And that was my turning point. You know what, you just stop doing this alone thing, because you do not have to do this alone, and you don't have to be perfect, and you can be vulnerable and real, and it doesn't have to be public. It sure as heck doesn't have to be like this. I mean, I couldn't have done this 2-3 years ago anyway, but um yeah, it's good to have amazing friends.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, I'm so glad to connect. And I love that there's no distance between us. We're really right now, there's no distance, like heart to heart, you know? I
Yeah,
so appreciate you.
yeah, I appreciate you. So I guess we'll just call it a wrap, eh?
Yeah, it's a wrap.
Wrap.
Thank you, Alec Baldwin.
You know,
Oh,
I just think that's like the most hilarious part of all this. Like, really? that that's what it took, was some one random. That's
yeah,
what life is, right? It takes one
yes,
random
yeah.
thing, just clicks a thing in you and just makes you say, yeah, why not? I mean, really, why not?
Oh man, yeah. There's lots of. We're all connected, no matter where we are. We're all connected. We're one organism. You know, we are one.
Yeah.
So I look forward to watching all your upcoming videos. Do you have a third one online yet?
I only have a third personal one. I'm trying to figure out um, if these are two separate things. Like, maybe I
Got
do
it.
daily, like 5 minute,
Yep,
and then I also put the hour-long conversations just as their own standalone. Um, because really, I mean, come on, who's going to listen to an hour except for the person who needs to listen to the hour,
that's
uh,
right.
or wants to?
I just say don't wait. Don't wait for the perfection or even editing.
Yeah,
I heard you talking about editing, and I'm like,
you're the third person to say that.
yeah,
Um,
third time's the charm.
okay, well, message received.
I love it.
So maybe, yeah, I just put it up there, and like, when it gets fancy, they'll be like, the link to Emily Olsen, and here's her book, and here's her card,
OMG.
and here's her
Yeah,
coaching service.
yeah, right?
That'll
And
be
that will come. People will find it if they're seeking it anyway.
right. If they,
You
yeah.
know. So I would love to invite you on our podcast once we figure out how to do that whole thing.
Okay. Well, oh my gosh. Wait till you see the interview I did with my art teacher.
Okay.
Is hilarious because she couldn't figure out Zoom on her end. So I took my phone. Oh my gosh. My son sends me a message and says, actually, I'm too busy to edit your video.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, dude.
Universe. Yeah.
So my interview with my art teacher was like this because she was on FaceTime and we were talking to the camera this way.
Right.
I was like, okay, got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah. I
It's,
love that. That's so good.
yeah, we're just
There you
like
go.
spitting duct tape, pulling it all together.
All right. Well, my wish for you is that you have an abundance of creative inspiration going forward. It sounds to me like you don't need any help with it, but
No, I need to give some of it away to just give it to other people because I have too much and it overwhelms me. So, and
yay.
just so you know, my crystal also came from Sedona.
Ooh, nice.
I was there. It was actually a Sue Mortar workshop, and I was in a shop with, oh, I want to say Sylvia, but no, it wasn't Sylvia. Oh, somebody from the Sue Mortar people. And I was leaving the shop, and then I saw this crystal, which was like crazy expensive, and I was like, I have to buy it. Like, why did they do this to me?
I love it.
Crystals call me, and they, yeah.
That's so good.
We have our bits of Sedona to keep us feeling grounded.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm going to go do some earthing myself, go walk around on the ground with bare feet outside.
Excellent.
Yeah. Lovely chatting with you.
You too.
Okay.
Take care.
Look forward to it. You as well. Love you lots.
Love you too. Bye.
Mwah. Bye-bye.